This is part 3 of this day trading series, and we're going to be taking a look at hourly charts, most of them being in the Indian market, to see how we can use our line extensions on the RSI to tell us when a stock is due for a turnaround situation. So here we are looking at a stock here, BHARTI AIRTEL. I know the pronunciation is not correct, but it really doesn't matter. So we see that there was a breakout on the RSI above the previous RSI highs. So there's a breakout here, which is this nice entry before a nice move on an hour-to-hour basis. And I am using a RSI period of 26. So the RSI period here should be at 26, I believe. So that's the RSI setting. And so if we continue here, we see that there was an extension of the line, same line here. The stock would come very close to finding support at the line somewhere there, which happens to be these lows here and a slight move higher hour to hour. We have what seems like uniform activity below the line and back above it, which was these lows, and for a small uptick hour to hour there. And we can see that again we come here and touch the line and back above it with uniform activity, which was these lows, for a nice day trade move. Since then the stock has gone higher. In the current market, I do observe that it seems like the stock is seeing a short-term high and a pullback scenario, because if we go back and find our RSI breakpoint currently, see there's a break right here. All we have to do is draw a straight line, and I digress, but you can see that this is uniform activity above the line, back below it, and again uniform activity above the line, back below it. Additionally, we are making higher highs in price and lower lows on the technicals. My thinking here is that more than likely this is a scenario where this stock trading now at 400 tends or will more than likely drop from current levels. Here we're taking a look at DR REDDY LABS and the hourly, and I just want to show you the lines that I'm looking at here. Recently there was a nice move, we can see from here all the way to current levels. So if we draw a line from the previous ideal entry point on an RSI breakout level there, which was this move here, and all we have to do is extend that line like that. We can see that it gave us a short-term bounce position there, which was this lows. So there was our tradable bounce, which makes a lot of sense from that point of view. There's also another line I had seen while I was doing the research here for this example, and if I just draw a straight line, it might not make a lot of sense initially, but I want to show you what this line, this blue line here, is telling us. You can see that we broke below that line, which is this period, and that led to a relatively big drop in the price hour to hour. Would come back to the same line and show resistance, which was short-term high and a move lower, uniform activity back to the line and a resistance and a move lower, uniform activity and resistance here, and an hour-to-hour move lower. It's only until we came back here and moved above that line with no uniform activity that the stock started moving higher. So there was an entry level there, and then it became support. It became support here, nice lows, uniform activity below the line, back above it, nice lows. You kiss the line there with uniform activity, nice lows, and recently double bottom support with the nice lows there. So the stock has been giving us, if you use a line extension, and this line extension comes from this break. This break there gave us a serious sell signal, so we extend that line, and you can see that whenever we find uniform activity back to the line, we can use that. And here the uniform activity was giving us buy situations as the stock was moving and moving higher. So I want to clear that and take a look at the hourly chart right now on this one. And you can see that previously there was a break. In fact, there was a break somewhere there on the RSI. So that break point corresponds with the RSI or the price break there and a move lower. So we can use that information to draw a straight line. And you can see that we've come and hit this line recently for a short-term resistance, and we are coming back and doing the same thing here. It looks like if we can turn around and show uniform activity, which would look something like that, around here at 35.18 would be where one needs to go short, because if this turns around and shows inverted V-type formation, this is where you'd want to initiate some short position for the stock to go low because of that turnaround uniformity. The best thing to do is just observe on an hour-to-hour basis, because the chart already looks like this. Just wait for confirmation that it's gone back below that line with uniform activity. So we are talking about this period. That uniform activity could suggest time to go short around current levels. Let's take a look at another example. This time we are taking a look at a daily. So this is a daily view right there, and that's the name of the stock. And just want to show you how we can use this method of extension of a previous established line. We can see here that there was a breakout there. In fact, let me go and see whether I can give you more data here. Give me a second here. Let me draw this correctly. All right, here we go. So this is a daily. We see a very nice big move here on the stock. Okay, and so we figure out where the move began, and the move began during this breakout somewhere. How do we draw this right? We can draw it like that. And so on this daily chart, if we take the line connecting, so the line connecting the previous RSI move above 69.1 and draw a straight line, we see that the breakout took place somewhere here, which corresponds with this price surge. So that's all good, we know that. So we draw a straight, extend our line, extend the same line. Now you'll notice that I went through this high. I went through this high in drawing the line. Why? Because this line connects more highs when I draw it this way. It connects most of the highs throughout this period. And this here is uniform action above the line and back below it, so I can go through it. So remember on part number 2 we talked about if the line shows uniform activity above the line, back below it, then you can draw through the line. And anyway, so that's why that line, it looks like that. So we connect there, extend that line. You see that here at this point we had uniform activity below the line, back above it. This gave you a short couple of hours trade to the upside. But take a look at what happens after that. The market comes and breaks below that line, which happens to be, I guess, this sell. Let me see. Actually happens the previous buy point. So the previous uniformity here was this level for a slight move. Now we come back and break that line, which is this highs there. We extend the same line, so we are extending this line, keep the lines extended, and now it gives us even more sell signals. It gave us a sell signal here, which is this high. We extend the same line, it gives another sell signal, which is that high because of uniformity back to the line. It kissed the same line, which is here, and recently came close to the line, which is uniform activity there, which was those highs. So you can clearly see that this has been telling us when to sell the stock short for short-term trades, and all this information is gathered by extending this very simple line. Hope that makes sense. And this is again daily. That's a daily view for the stock. So because there's no hard science, I want to show you another trick. Is you take these lows that connect 30.90 through this low and through this low. It should be something like that, and extend that line. Take a look at what happened. Once we broke below the line somewhere around here, which happens to be this drop, since then the stock has been coming back to the line and showing uniformity resistance. Uniformity resistance there, which means the stock is a short for a short-term move. perfect uniformity resistance there, which is here for a short-term move lower, and then perfect uniformity resistance here, which is here for a short-term move lower. There's also another layer of information if you want to dig deeper, and by drawing a line connecting this low through this low like that, and we can draw it this way through this low because of uniform activity below the line back above it, and the line makes more sense because it connects to all this, connects to that point there and this lows here and here. So that line extended. There was a break of that line which was bearish for the stock, a break there which is this level. So we extend, and the stock has been down since, so that was a bad break for the stock. We extend the same line, and guess where it comes and stalls. Recently it made that high because of uniform activity above the line and back below it. Also, that was a sell signal, but keep in mind that there was also uniform activity around the 50 level of that same time period. Uniform activity and rejection at 50, which is a sell signal, which we learned in part 1. Uniform activity above 50 and back below it, which is rejection and a sell signal. Uniform activity above 50 and back below it, sell signal. Uniform activity above 50 and back below it, sell signal. All of them giving you short-term sell signals. In fact, we can see that right now even this stock to me looks like a short on an hourly chart, because if I extend this line like that, it gives me through this low and through this low, which means that this is resistance. Seems like resistance on that line, and I'm using that line because the break of that line there led to a serious pullback in the stock, so I can use the line. And also if I connect the most recent highs like that, you can see that it goes through this high and to this high, uniform activity above the line back below. So in other words, these two lines coincide with where the stock is showing resistance right now. I believe if we use that information, this stock at about 240, it also looks like short term it is a short. And also don't forget that the RSI is trading below 50 or below 0. The MACD is trading below 0. I'm trying to say MACD below 0 shows that the stock is and has run out of short-term momentum. So this one looks bearish in terms of where the MACDs are trading, and also because of the fact that you have resistance on multiple levels and trading below 50 on the hourly chart there. If I take a look at the hourly chart for this one, we see that there was a break of the RSI there, which is off the highs. If we draw a straight line, you can see that this is where the stock has been finding resistance. Every time it moves above the line and back below it with uniform activity, it is a sell signal. Every time uniform activity above the line, back below it, you get short-term highs in the stock. You came close there, short-term high. Finally, uniform activity here as the stock was moving high, uniform activity there, and also a short-term break of this trend line there. So once it broke this trend line, which happens to be this break, it was a sell signal. We can also draw another uniformity line from there. So a break of this and a uniformity line corresponding with the previous uniformity line, uniform activity above this and back below it, I would say that is uniform visually, and that was a sell signal. So most of these stocks seem to indicate a market that is due for a pullback because they all seem to be giving us short-term sell signals. Let's take a look at ICC Bank, and here I'm just going to draw one line that I had seen like that connecting the previous high. So there was a breakout, we can say somewhere around, I guess we can draw it this way. There was a slight, very small node right there. So the entry level on the way up was here during this nice price surge, and so we find out where we would have used this for entry levels, and you can see here an extension of that line gave us uniform activity above the line and back below it. Above the line, below the line and back above it is what I'm trying to say, which was entry level there. Extend the same line, looking for uniform activity. Remember, no uniform activity means we don't take action. If we see uniform activity, it means something. We came here, touched the line, which was this lows, and since then we've come back and broken below. We did break below that. Actually, you know what, you can say this was some type of uniform activity below the blue line and back above it, which is this short-term entry level here, which has not been as successful. Now I want to show you another line, which to me, so there was a break recently here, and that break was this slight move. We've come all the way back and seem to be finding backtest resistance. So this to me is a short-term high because of this backtest resistance. So here's another stock, ICC Bank, trading at 1686, somewhere around here. This one also looks like it is a short, and all these stocks have the same look and feel. You can see we also made higher highs in price, lower lows in technicals, and also the technical resistance here came at about 69.1, which is not a good place to find resistance. So my thinking here is that most of these charts look like they are showing us sell signals. Let me take that off and show you that most recent bearish move on an hour-to-hour basis was this move there. And if we take the break point on the RSI, should have been somewhere around, let's say somewhere here, to a straight line. And you can see that we found uniform activity above the line, back below it once, which was this high and a pullback. We've come back and shown uniform activity above the line, back below it, which was the high and a pullback. And now we've come and kissed the same line and a pullback. My thinking here is that, again, here's a stock that is looking and showing us potential for lower prices. So let's take a look at the hourly chart for Sun Pharmaceuticals. I just want to show you during this nice move, there was some support points that were triggered. The move began during this nice blast. So this movement in the RSI here began this nice move. We extend the same line. Just extend it. Something like that. And you can see that we came close to the line here and held 50 with uniform activity. Nice entry point. We come here, we kiss the line with uniform activity. Nice entry point for a short-term move. Remember, we are looking at short-term entry levels. And also here, back above the line, which is somewhere, which was this move here, which wasn't the most successful, but you can still see that the stock was moving higher for the next 2-3 hours. So that would be my takeaway. Keep in mind that during this bearish phase, for example, during this drop right here, you can see that uniform activity above 50 and back below it, which was a sell signal. And it's as simple as that. Uniform activity above 50 and below it on 2 occasions there. So there's one occasion, uniform activity above 50, back below it, and then again above 50, back below it with uniform activity, which was that high. And just to keep on explaining it again, we touched 30.90 with uniform activity. That began the spike. We touched 30.90 here with uniform activity. We had a short-term move higher. So lots of information on this chart. Lots of information. Let me draw you one more line for the sake of explaining that, you know, when you're drawing these lines, there's no hard science. Here's a line I just drew out of pure fun, having fun here. And I can see that we moved above the line on a breakout level, which was this move here for a successful couple of hours of trade. In my eyes, we went above the line and back below it with what eventually looks like uniform activity. So at this point, that's a sell signal back below the line, which is here, which was successful sell signal. Double top resistance here at the line, which was that high. And it's just a line I drew, but it makes a lot of sense. Uniform activity above the line, back below it, which was that short-term high. Uniform activity below the line, back above it, short-term low. Here, double bottom support. and back above the line, short-term low. So that's how the market is trading. I want to show you something here that I think is of use in the current market, in the here and now, is this line. This line has led to a break in the price action of the highs, which is here. All right. We extend the same line, and guess where the market has come and found resistance? The market has come and found resistance at the extension of the line, which was these highs. So lots of sell signals. So even this one was a sell signal a couple of hours ago, maybe a day or two ago. So this one is not primed in terms of timely short like some of the stocks that we've been mentioning in this video. So now we're taking a look at the SENSEX daily. So SENSEX daily, I just want to draw a line. In fact, I want to show you why sometimes you should adjust your lines. If we take this high, and we are trying to find out where the recent move began. So there was a nice move here that began this nice upward trend, and we want to find out where that move began. We can see that there was a slight, the movement actually began here, which happens to be this point. So at this point is where that move began, and all I'm gonna do is take this high and connect that to that line there. Now I can draw it connecting the highs like this. So in other words, it's gonna give me that high and through this high, but I get my line coming there, which is not making a lot of sense, and I'll explain why. Because if I extend the line like that, yes, you can still use it because there is uniform activity here, which is this entry level somewhere there, uniform activity below the line back above it, which is this entry level here. You touch a line there, which is this nice entry point right there, uniform activity below the line back above it, which is this nice entry point there, uniform activity below the line back above it, which is this entry point there. And also all this movement here visually looks like it is averaging out as uniform. So there's entry point back above the line, which is somewhere here. All of them were successful. So yes, I can draw the line connecting the actual highs and like that, but I choose to adjust it slightly, and I want to explain why sometimes you can do that. Is because if I draw it like that, connecting, there's a very small node right there, very small high. It gives me more points. It connects these points through this double top, close enough, through this top, connecting that top, this top, and this top. So I personally would rather use this line and extend it, because I can see that I have uniform activity above the line and back below it, which means I can draw through that high. Uniform activity above the line and back below it, which means I can draw through the high. So let me just explain this. So this line here, we can look at this line as something like that, and I am saying that it gives me more points, it gives me more connecting points. Even though some of them are uniform activity above the line and back below it, the line to me makes more sense because it connects to more highs. A high there, 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 and a high there. So I like the lines that connect with as many highs as possible, and I can draw it this way because of this uniform activity above the line and back below it. If there was no uniform activity above the line and back below it, then I would be forced to draw my line like that. Hope that makes sense. So I'm drawing it this way because it connects to many highs on the RSI, and also it goes through some uniform activity area. If there was no uniform activity area, I would have to draw it connecting the actual highs. So that's why my line, I think the correct line is this line, and we can test it because check this out. It gives us one supporting low with uniform activity, perfect entry point. We test the line again, perfect entry support there, which is this nice lows. Nice entry there, uniform activity, nice lows, and a little bit confusing, but there's uniform activity there and uniform activity there. In other words, all this period here looks like this. Let me explain that, because it's always good to understand this. It looks like this, like down, up, sharp V. So that's how it looks like. So that's why I'm calling that uniform activity once it moves above that level, which was this entry point. So that makes sense, that this is actually the correct line. So we've made an adjustment, drawing it that way, going through the highs here again. Why? Because they're uniform activity, and we can take that as the market telling us we can go through those highs. Now I want to show you my thinking of the Indian market right now. I think the market is showing signs of tiredness. Number one, we've made higher highs in price, but we are making lower lows in technicals. In fact, the last previous highs on the RSI connect to a straight point, a straight line. So we are making higher highs in price 3 times, 3 occasions, but the RSI is making lower lows. The RSI has not moved above 69.1. Again, that's a red flag. And also, I can see an early sign of uniformity if I draw the line there, which led to this shallow pullback, and connect it to the and draw a straight line. So this is already giving us a sell signal hour to hour in that Indian market as far as I am concerned. So seems like we might see a pullback, maybe even a serious high, with the Indian market trading here at 28,046. Excuse me, this was actually the daily chart. So daily chart for India, not the hourly. We are going to go to the hourly chart next. So now we're taking a look at the SENSEX from an hourly chart. So that's hourly. Just want to show you why I think this one is and has been looking slightly bearish on a short-term basis. So this hour-to-hour slide here makes a lot of sense. And if you remember, I've been trying to tell you that that's what I think is going to happen. Now, if we take a look at where the selling point begins, number one, we've made incremental highs in price on an hour-to-hour basis. I am using RSI period of 26, and the RSI has been making lower lows. In fact, those lines make a straight line, while the market is making straight line down, while the market is making a straight line up. So that's divergence that could lead to a pullback. So that's one way to view that. And also, if we go back and find the previous breakpoint during this, the most recent slide, either here or even during this slide, we can see that, for example, there was a break here, which was, so the break here was off this high here. Is that right? Actually was off this high here. So the break point there, we just draw a simple line from the break. We should be somewhere there. And what you can see here, there was a 2-time resistance, double top resistance, which was these 2 highs and a pullback. We've come back. What I want to show you is we've made a higher high recently, but there is uniform activity above the line and back below it, and already we are seeing that the pullback has begun. So if we combine the daily chart and the hourly chart, they all seem to be pointing to a market that wants to go down. In fact, the one thing I could sensitize you is a break of this short-term low on the MACD and a move below 0 on the MACD is exactly when this is going to start picking up momentum to the downside. So confirmation that the market is due for a pullback is a move below 50 on the hourly, and also a move below 0 on the MACD. On the RSI, I'm using a period of 26. On the MACD, you can use the default MACD of 12, 26, and 9. No problem there. So watch those 2 things. Right now, it looks like this market, just like most of the markets around the globe, seem to be indicating a pullback is probably in place. Eric Moore, good luck, peace, and blessings. Woo!